Today's video, which was inspired by one I saw from John McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad, former Delta Force operator, would probably have James Yeager shaking his head at me if he were still alive. But we're going to go there. We're going to talk about 15-round magazines for the Glock 48 and 43X. Talk about ones I've tried, some that failed, some that didn't. Take you to the range and just kind of open this can of worms again. Yep, we're going to go there. Coming up next here on Survival on Purpose. Welcome back to Survival on Purpose. My name is Brian. Thanks for joining me for today's video where, as I said, we're going to open up this can of worms again about the 15-round magazines for the Glock 48 and 43X. But first, as always, today's words of wisdom from the Bible. This is just good plain truth. This is from Matthew chapter 7, verse 20. Just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. That's a pretty good piece of advice there. So, also, a big thank you to my friends at XS Sites for sponsoring today's video. I have been an XS Sites customer for years before they are a channel sponsor. XS Sites are the only sites that I trust my life to on any pistol that I carry concealed. I've got XS Sites on this 48, I've got XS Sites on this 43X, and I've got XS Sites on every other pistol that I carry to protect myself and my family. So, XS Sites are the fastest sights in any light, and they are made in the USA, in Texas. And if you go to their website and there's some place on there where for some reason you think it might be beneficial to you to enter a code, you can enter SOP15, and there you go. So thanks again to XS Sites for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get to it. And I'm going to try to minimize the rambling, but I have to do a little bit of background. So deep breath, a little bit of rambling, and we'll get right to it. So first of all, several years ago, maybe 10-ish, I don't know, Glock came out with this Glock 48. It is chambered in 9mm. It is basically a slimmed down version of a 19. It has a same length slide, same length grip. This, by the way, is I guess an OG model before they came out with the light rail, but it's thinner. And by the way, all the guns you see today will be unloaded. So it's got a little smaller grip. John McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad, says this is probably the perfect pistol for 90% of the people. It just fits your hand better, fits a lot of people's hands better. It's easier to carry. It's a little thinner. It's got a lot of benefits. But one potential drawback is this pistol comes in the factory with a 10-round magazine. So when they first came out, a company called Shield Arms was all over the internet that they're coming out with a 15-round magazine, and they were just like blowing up the old social medias about. Everybody was so excited that we're going to have a 15-round magazine for this new Glock pistol. And at the time, I remember my friend James Yeager saying, look, people are getting all excited about this magazine, and it's not even released yet. Nobody's even tested one. They're just like lemmings, knee-jerk reactions. This is such a great idea. He said, look, Glock magazines don't fail. They work. They are absolutely tried and true. So 10 rounds is 10 rounds, but 10 rounds that work are better than 15 rounds that don't. He also said that, look, don't you think if Glock could have got 15 rounds in their magazine, they would have done so? And we'll address that in a minute. But I said, yeah, I agree with that, James. But you know what? I got a hard head, so I bought some of the Shield Arms magazines and tested them, and yep, they sucked. I actually told the guy that at Shield Arms a couple of years ago at SHOT Show, and he actually sent me some of their Gen 3s to test out, and we did. I'll put a link to that video up here if I can. You can check that one out. Did about 90 rounds to them with no problems, to be honest with you. Recently, I happened to see that Palmetto State Armory has some 15-round magazines for their Dagger Micro, and they actually fit these Glock pistols. So I bought a couple of them, took them to the range and tested them, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We'll show you some range footage, but I'm trying to minimize the rambling, so I'm going to take you down the old tabletop here. We'll take a closer look at these magazines, kind of give you, I'll address that little if Glock could have, they would have thing, and then we'll do some testing and wrap this sucker up, hopefully in much, much, much shorter than 30 minutes. Okay, here we are at the old tabletop, and just to show you, these guns are completely empty, so we're going to... Let's talk about these magazines real quick, and then we'll do some testing. So first of all, this is the standard Glock magazine that ships with the pistols, 10 rounds. You can see that it is a metal magazine, but it has a polymer wrap around it, coating around it, and Glock says that helps keep it from denting and minimizes corrosion. It protects the metal magazine. So, but that polymer certainly adds some thickness to the wall there. So, the folks at Shield Arms came out with this dude here. It's actually Gen 3. It's a 100% metal magazine, so the exterior dimensions of it are the same as the exterior dimensions to polymer. So you've got a thinner wall here, which means you have a larger interior capacity, which means they can stack some more rounds in here. So they're able to stagger a little more and get 15 rounds in here with pretty much the same overall dimensions. The problem they were having was the rounds are the rounds. They're as long as they are. So this thing was a little loose in here, and what was happening is I think they were rocking here a little bit, causing problems. So what they did, they made these little bumps here and this little ridge here to kind of space it out, and that seemed to maybe have solved the problem. But the other thing that they have a metal magazine here, all metal, metal groove there. So they recommend and almost insist that you change the magazine release from the stock polymer one to a metal one, because they said that this metal back and forth between loading and unloading and all the recoil could cause the magazine catch to wear. So this one has been changed. Oh, and by the way, back up just a second. You know, the contention that James said, and I get it, that if Glock could have made this thing with 15 rounds, then they would have. The only possible pushback I'd have to that is that Glock is not known for changing. Not that they need to. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But they're not really known for changing their stuff, so they would have had to really change a lot of stuff, change their entire magazine design to do that. Anyway, now Palmetto State Armory came out with these magazines for their micro Dagger, and these are metal magazines, but they have a polymer wrap on the front, so that provides the proper amount of spacing and everything, and it gives you a polymer magazine place, so that the lips of this thing are both of them are polymer, so you don't have to worry about using a metal magazine release or catch, whichever you want to call it. And they have two versions. They have this version. This one's called the Micro Slick, the shiny one. I can't tell a bit of difference between them as far as the slickness of them or the functionality. They say this one's a little bit slicker. I do like that they have the entire 15 round marker holes here, so you can see exactly how many rounds you have. The Shield Arms only have like little 5 round increments. What I especially like is, since you don't have to change the magazine release, then you're not going to worry about damaging if you want to use a stock Glock magazine, because the metal magazine catch is going to wear on the polymer magazine now instead of the reverse. I like the concept here that you can use their magazines or you can use Glock magazines. You don't have to change anything. Like, I have not changed anything on this 43X. One thing I will say is you can get 15 rounds in them, but you're going to want one of these. I got a pink one, so my other ones kept disappearing. But this is what James Yeager told me after 20 years at SHOT Show was the absolute #1 thing he'd ever seen at SHOT Show. This is the Up Lula loader. This thing, man, it works, because I'm telling you, the last 3 rounds getting in here from about 12 to 15, my goodness, I got pretty tough thumbs, but man, yeah, you need one of these. So what we're going to do now, we're going to test a couple of tests on these things before we go to the range. One of them is, I measured, if I'm doing a standard reload where I've got this thing in my workspace, as they say, and do it, then that's going to be about 4 feet off the ground. So instead of me changing the camera around, I'm going to load up a couple mags. I'm going to load a full one and a half one, and we're going to drop it from 4 feet above. Take the pad up above the tabletop and see what happens. Because I had a couple videos I've seen on some of the earlier Palmetto mags saying that these base plates were coming off. Or sometimes what happens is, especially in a non-fully loaded magazine, the inertia of those rounds, when it hits, will spring up and it can pop some out. So let's do that, and then we'll get to the range. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I got my couple of bullets here. So we're just going to load some random ammo in here. These are all bullets that like I've taken out or dumped mags or whatever, and I always have to check them out, because if you wind up with, you got to look at them. If you're loading the same bullet into the chamber several times, it's a possibility that you can actually push the bullet into the case a little bit here, and it will increase the chamber pressure drastically. Okay, so we're 15 now. We can load the other one to about half of that. It'll increase the chamber pressure drastically to the point where it could like cause a catastrophic failure of your firearm. That's not a good thing. So you gotta always check those things. Don't just keep reloading them into the chamber without looking at them and measuring them against a known new round. And if they're pushed in a little bit, then go ahead and use them for, you know, shoot them up for practice or something. Even if they're those expensive $1.50 a round, like some of these are. Okay, there we go. Now, move this out of the way. You're gonna have to trust me on this, but I'm standing on my tippy toes. I'm gonna hold this magazine up completely to as high as I can, and that'll be 4 feet off of this table. I promise. I measured it. Let's do it. Here's the black one, full magazine. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3. Let's try a little crookedness. 4, 5. Okay. No issues. That round started to come out a little bit, but that's pretty common. Now let's try the partially loaded one. That's where you're more likely to have a problem. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And no issues here. Nothing happened. No problem with it. So really, no worries at all. So the only other issue that I saw on the old internet really was that some people were having a failure. Some of the early ones, a failure to lock back on empty. I did not experience that a single time with either one of these magazines. So that's again, no failure. So I actually ran, we'll take you to the range now. I ran 87 rounds through here because I ran 5 magazines through each magazine. So that was 75 rounds, 5 full magazines. And then I had 24 left, so I split them up and made 12 per round. So that would be 75 and 12 would be 87 if my math is correct. So I did 87 rounds through each one with no issues.
Ghosts sit around the campfire and tell Chuck Norris stories.
Okay, let's go to the range. So I shot 75 rounds through each with full magazines, and then 12 rounds remaining through each magazine, and 0 malfunctions. And I decided to wrap it up with, we won't call it a mag dump. We'll call it a rapid as I thought I could maintain accuracy, emptying of the magazine, and 0 issues. So, am I ready to trust my life to an aftermarket 15-round magazine for the Glock 48 or 43X? And as of now, not yet. But I am actually very hopeful. I'm going to continue to do some testing. And I said that about these, but I'll be honest with you about the shield arms. But since I found these, I really, if they pan out and work better, I'm much more hopeful about these, for the simple reason that you don't have to change anything on your pistol. Like this has still got the standard Glock polymer magazine catch. You can have an absolute 100% stock Glock pistol, and these magazines will work in it. To me, that is some kind of an advantage. I am going to continue to test these magazines, and they're going to get tested thoroughly. And then if they make it through that, then I might consider trusting them. Again, Palmetto State Armory micro Dagger magazines. They didn't send me these. I'm not promoting the sale of these. I bought these. I'm just trying to give you my honest opinion and evaluation of them. And so far so good. Almost 90 rounds. I'll let you know if anything changes. So I hope this video has been helpful. Hope this has been somewhat informative. And I really appreciate you watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival is not an accident. So be prepared. I'll see you next time.